Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Today, we're diving into the world of surfing, and not just any surfing, female surfers in Phuket, Thailand. I'm so excited to talk about this because Phuket holds a special place in my heart.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I'm super excited to be here today. Like Naomi, I've spent a lot of time in Phuket, and I've really fallen in love with the vibe of the place, especially the energy of the women surfers. It's such an inspiring scene.
Totally agree. There's just something so powerful about watching these women catch waves and completely own it out there.
Yeah, it's like they're one with the ocean. You can feel their confidence and freedom in every move.
Exactly. And that's what struck me the most when I first came to Phuket. I thought it was just going to be a typical beach town. But then I saw these women, and I was completely blown away.
I know what you mean. The way they surf, it's like they're not just riding the waves, they're part of them.
Yes, it's so inspiring to watch, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today, to share these amazing women's stories with all of you.
I love that. And honestly, their stories are so empowering. They've really made surfing a part of their identity, haven't they?
Exactly. It's not just a hobby, it's a lifestyle, a way of expressing themselves. So, Anna, I'm curious, what was your first impression when you saw the female surfers in Phuket?
Oh, I remember being totally mesmerized. It wasn't just about their skills, but the way they carried themselves with so much confidence.
Yes, it's that confidence, right? You can just feel it. They're so comfortable in their own skin, and it shows in the way they surf.
Exactly. And the freedom they exude, it's like the ocean is their playground, and they're just having the time of their lives out there.
I love that. It's like they're in sync with the waves, flowing effortlessly. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and it made me think this is more than just a sport for them. It's a way of life, a kind of liberation.
I feel the same. There's something about the way they surf that feels so empowering.
And I think that's why it's so important to talk about this. These women are breaking stereotypes, showing that surfing isn't just for men, it's for anyone who has a passion for the ocean.
Exactly. It's about the passion and the connection with nature, not gender.
Right? And speaking of passion, one of the things that stood out to me was how dedicated they are. These women wake up early, they train, and they surf every single day.
Yes, the discipline they have is incredible. It's not just about catching waves, it's about putting in the work.
And that's something we can all learn from, right? Whether it's surfing or anything else, the dedication and passion they show is so inspiring.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that if you really love something, you've got to give it your all.
Absolutely. Surfing really is a reflection of life, isn't it? You have to be patient, wait for the right moment, and when the wave comes, you just go for it. It's a balance of timing, skill, and intuition.
And when you think about these women in Phuket, they've mastered that balance. Watching them surf, it's like watching someone who's completely in sync with the natural rhythm of the ocean. There's something deeply spiritual about it.
I felt that too. There's this grace in the way they move, but it's not just about physical grace. It's about being present, fully immersed in the moment. It reminds me of meditation in a way.
That's a beautiful comparison. Surfing is a form of meditation, where you let go of everything else and just focus on the here and now. I think that's why it's so addictive. Once you feel that kind of connection with the ocean, it's hard to step away.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes the women in Phuket so inspiring. They've embraced that connection fully, and it shows in everything they do, not just in their surfing but in the way they live their lives.
Yes, and you can see it in their eyes, the way they talk about the ocean, the respect they have for it. It's more than just a sport for them, it's almost like a sacred bond.
It's humbling, isn't it, to witness that kind of respect and harmony. I think there's a lot we can learn from them, about balance, about patience, and about listening to something bigger than ourselves.
You know, that's something I've been reflecting on lately, how much surfing teaches us to listen, not just to the waves, but to ourselves. There's a clarity that comes when you're out there, away from everything else.
Absolutely. It forces you to slow down and pay attention, to be aware of your surroundings and your inner state. It's almost like the ocean doesn't let you hide from yourself.
I love that. The ocean doesn't let you hide from yourself. It's so true. There's a raw honesty in it, isn't there? It strips away all the noise and distractions, and you're left with just you and the water.
Exactly. And that's where the beauty lies. It's not always about conquering the biggest wave or being the best. It's about finding your rhythm, your place in the water.
Yes, it's about being in tune with something greater than yourself, and I think the women in Phuket really embody that. There's no rush, no competition, just this deep respect for the ocean and for each other.
That's something I admire about them. They're so supportive of each other, too. It's not about outshining anyone else, it's about sharing the experience, lifting each other up.
Yes, there's such a sense of community among them. It's really refreshing to see women uplifting each other in a sport that's often seen as competitive or male-dominated.
Exactly. And it's not just about the surfing, it's about the lifestyle. The way they live, with the ocean at the center of everything, it's so inspiring.
It makes you think about your own life, doesn't it? How we could all benefit from being a little more connected to nature, a little more present.
Definitely. I feel like we're often so caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life that we forget to slow down and really listen to the world around us, and to ourselves.
So Anna, let's talk about the women we met in Phuket. There's one surfer in particular who really stood out to me. Mai. Do you remember her?
Oh, absolutely. Mai was incredible. She had this calm confidence about her, like nothing could shake her.
Exactly. I remember watching her catch a wave. It wasn't the biggest, but the way she rode it was pure grace. It wasn't about showing off, it was just about being in the moment.
That's what I loved about her. She wasn't trying to be the best surfer on the beach, she was just completely herself. There was a real authenticity to her.
Yes, and it made me think, how often do we really allow ourselves to just be? To not compete or compare, but just enjoy the moment?
That's such a good point. We're always pushing ourselves to do more, to be more. But watching Mai, it was clear that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just let go.
Exactly. And that's something I think all of us could take away from her. Whether it's in surfing or in life, it's okay to just enjoy the ride.
Right. And speaking of enjoying the ride, what do you say we talk about some of our favorite surfing spots in Phuket? I think our listeners would love to hear where they can find that perfect wave.
Great idea. I've got a few places in mind. Let's start with Quesada Beach. It's one of the best spots for beginners, but even experienced surfers can find some good waves there.
Absolutely. I love how laid back the vibe is at Queda Beach. You can catch some great waves, but it's also a place where you can just relax and soak in the atmosphere.
Kapata Beach is definitely a favorite. I remember the first time we went there. You could feel the energy from the ocean, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was inviting, almost like it was calling us to join in.
Yes, that's what makes it so special. There's a calmness to it, but at the same time, there's this underlying power. You can relax, but you also know the ocean is alive and you're part of it.
Exactly, and it's perfect for surfers of all levels. Whether you're just starting out or you've been surfing for years, there's a wave for you at Qaida Beach.
And I love how the community is so welcoming. There's no sense of competition. Everyone's just there to enjoy the waves and the ocean. It's a really supportive environment.
Yes, I noticed that too. It's so different from some of the more competitive surf spots around the world. Here, it's all about the experience, not about proving yourself.
That's what I love about Phuket. There's this deep connection with nature, and the locals respect that. It's not just about surfing, it's about being part of something bigger.
Absolutely. You can feel that connection as soon as you step on the sand. It's like the ocean and the beach are welcoming you, no matter who you are or where you come from.
And that's what makes surfing in Phuket so different. It's not just about catching waves, it's about finding your place in the water, in the world, really.
Exactly. There's something almost spiritual about it. You're not just riding the waves. You're connecting with the ocean, with yourself.
I agree. And it's that connection that keeps bringing me back. No matter how many times I visit, Phuket always feels like coming home.
Same here. I think that's why so many surfers from all over the world are drawn here. It's not just about the waves, it's about the peace you find when you're out there.
You know, Naomi, when I think about the women surfers we met, Nari comes to mind immediately. Do you remember how effortlessly she moved on the water? It was like watching someone meditate while riding the waves.
Oh yes, Nari. She had this amazing calm about her. I remember watching her from the shore and being mesmerized by how in tune she was with the ocean. It was like the waves followed her lead, not the other way around.
Exactly. And I loved how she was always smiling. Even when she wiped out, she just laughed it off and got back up. It was like nothing could disturb her peace.
Yes, it was that inner calm she carried. I think that's what makes her surfing so unique. She wasn't fighting the waves, she was dancing with them.
She definitely had a way of turning every moment on the water into something graceful. And I remember she said something that really stuck with me. It was about how surfing teaches you to trust yourself and the ocean.
Yes, I remember that too. It made me think, how often do we really trust ourselves? Especially when life gets turbulent, like the waves. Nari seemed to have mastered that balance.
She definitely had. And I think that's something we can all learn from her. Life, like surfing, is about finding that flow and trusting that things will work out.
Absolutely. And then there was Pim, who had such a different energy. She was fierce, so determined, and you could see how much she pushed herself to get better.
Oh, Pim. Yes, she had that fiery determination. I remember watching her tackle those bigger waves, and you could tell she wasn't just there for fun. She was there to improve, to challenge herself.
Exactly. She was all about pushing her limits, but in a way that still respected the ocean. You could tell she had a deep understanding of what it means to surf, not just physically but mentally and spiritually too.
That's something I really admire about Pim. Her approach wasn't just about mastering the sport. It was about connecting with the deeper forces at play, the ocean and the natural world around her.
And that connection to nature, it's something that's been part of Thai culture for centuries, right? The ocean isn't just a resource, it's part of their identity. There's a reverence for nature that runs deep here.
Yes, that's so true. The Thai relationship with the ocean goes beyond just using it for fishing or tourism. It's embedded in their traditions, their rituals, and even their festivals.
Like the Songkran festival, it's all about water cleansing, renewal, and honoring the natural world. It's interesting how even modern-day surfing can feel like an extension of those traditions.
Yes, and you can see it in the way the local surfers treat the ocean. It's not just a playground, it's something sacred, something to be respected and understood. Pim embodied that perfectly.
I remember Pim telling us about her family's connection to the sea. Her grandparents were fishermen, and she grew up hearing stories about how the ocean had shaped their lives. For her, surfing was a way of honoring that legacy.
That's such a powerful connection. It really shows how deeply rooted the ocean is in their identity, not just as a place of work or sport, but as something that shapes their lives and values.
Exactly, and it's amazing to see how that connection influences the way they approach surfing. There's a sense of responsibility, but also a freedom to explore and express themselves.
And, something else that really struck me about Pim was how she balanced her passion for surfing with her personal life. I remember her mentioning her relationship and how supportive her partner was of her surfing.
Yes, I remember that too. She said her partner wasn't a surfer, but he totally understood how important it was to her. I found that so refreshing. It's not always easy to find that kind of understanding in relationships.
Definitely. It made me think about how important it is to have someone who supports you, not just in what you do, but in who you are. Pim said something like, "He doesn't need to ride the waves with me, as long as he's waiting for me on the shore."
That's such a beautiful way of looking at it. It's not about doing everything together, but being there for each other in your own ways. It made me think about how relationships can grow stronger when both people have their own passions.
Exactly. And that balance is so important, especially in a place like Phuket, where the surf culture can be so consuming. Having someone who understands that and supports you is priceless.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how the ocean seems to influence relationships too. There's something about the rhythm of the waves that mirrors the ebb and flow of love. Sometimes calm, sometimes wild, but always moving.
That's such a poetic way of putting it, but it's true. Pim's relationship really reflected that. She had her own wild waves to ride, but her partner was always there, steady and supportive.
I think that's what makes relationships strong. When there's room for both people to be individuals while still sharing their lives. It reminds me of how Pim balanced her love for surfing with her love for her partner.
And it's inspiring to see that kind of balance. It's a reminder that, whether we're talking about surfing or relationships, it's all about finding that flow.
Exactly. And I think that's something we can all learn from the women we met in Phuket, how they navigate their personal lives with the same grace and determination they bring to the waves.
And speaking of balance, one thing that really stood out to me was how strong and fit the women surfers in Phuket were. Their bodies reflected all the hard work they put into surfing, their toned muscles, the way they moved with such confidence.
Yes, I noticed that too. You can tell they take their physical fitness seriously. But it's not just about aesthetics. It's about being able to handle the power of the waves and stay in control. There's something incredibly empowering about that.
Exactly. There's a certain beauty and strength, and you could see it in the way they carried themselves. Their toned arms, the definition in their legs, and how every movement seemed so intentional. It wasn't just about being in shape, it was about being capable.
Yes, and it's refreshing to see that kind of beauty being celebrated. It's not about fitting into a certain mold, but about embracing the strength and power that comes from being active, from challenging yourself.
It's a great reminder that beauty isn't just about appearance, but about how you move through the world, how you handle challenges. The way the women surfed, with such grace and power, was a reflection of that inner and outer strength.
Definitely. And their skin tanned from the sun, but glowing with health, was a testament to the time they spent outdoors, connected to the elements. It wasn't about perfection, it was about authenticity.
Yes, that natural glow was beautiful. It showed how much they lived their lives fully, outdoors, embracing the sun, the waves, and the lifestyle that comes with it.
And I think that's something we can all aspire to, not just to be fit, but to feel strong, confident, and in tune with our surroundings. That's a different kind of beauty, one that lasts.
And something else that really stood out to me was the difference between us and the local surfers. Not just in how we surf, but in our physical appearance. The Thai women had this deep, golden tan from spending so much time in the sun, while we've got a bit more of that city girl paleness going on.
I know. I remember looking at my arms after a few days in the sun and thinking, this is nothing compared to the rich, sun-kissed glow they have. Their skin seemed to have absorbed the very essence of the ocean and the sun.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the color. It was the way their skin seemed to shine with health, like it was a reflection of how active and alive they are. There's something so vibrant about that kind of beauty, don't you think?
Absolutely. And the contrast between their tan skin and the lighter skin beneath their swimsuits was almost like art. The lines where the sun hadn't touched made the rest of their bodies look even more radiant. It was a natural, effortless beauty.
I loved that contrast. It really highlighted how their bodies told a story. One of living under the sun, riding waves, and being completely in tune with nature.
And then there's us, with our pale skin that's used to being inside, except for the occasional surf trip, of course. There's beauty in that too, I think, in how different experiences shape us.
Definitely. Our skin tells a different story, one of city life, work, and those stolen moments when we escape to the beach. It's interesting how beauty comes in so many forms, and it's all about embracing where we are in our own journey.
Exactly. Whether it's the sun-kissed surfers of Phuket or the city girls like us, it's all beautiful in its own way. It's about the lives we live and the marks they leave on us.
You know, Naomi, after spending time with the local surfers, I couldn't help but think about what their typical day looks like. They live such a unique lifestyle compared to ours.
Oh, absolutely. It's so different from the fast-paced city life we're used to. I remember Pim telling us about her mornings, how she wakes up with the sun and starts her day with some yoga on the beach. Can you imagine that?
It sounds like a dream, honestly. Starting the day with the sound of the waves and the warmth of the sun, it's the perfect way to feel grounded and ready for whatever comes next.
Exactly. After yoga, she heads straight into the water. She told me that the morning waves are her favorite. The ocean is still waking up, and there's a certain calmness to it. It's her time to reconnect with herself before the day fully starts.
I love that. It's not just about the thrill of catching waves. It's about finding peace in the ocean. Almost like it's a form of meditation.
Yes, and that balance seems to flow through her entire day. After surfing, she said she usually grabs some breakfast at one of the local beachside cafes, something light, like fresh fruit and a smoothie. Simple, but perfect for keeping her energy up.
It makes sense. Their whole lifestyle seems to be in harmony with nature. They eat fresh, simple food that nourishes them, and they spend so much time outdoors, under the sun, and in the water. It's such a contrast to the way we live.
Totally. And I remember her saying that after breakfast, she often teaches surf lessons to beginners. It's a way for her to share her passion, but also to stay connected to the community.
That's one of the things I admired most about the surfers we met. They're so connected to the people around them. It's not just about surfing for themselves. They're always giving back, whether it's teaching, helping tourists, or supporting each other.
Yes, and that sense of community is so strong in Phuket. It's more than just a surf scene. It's a way of life. After teaching, Pim said she spends the rest of her day either practicing more or simply relaxing on the beach, soaking in the island's beauty.
That sounds perfect. I love how their days are a mix of activity and relaxation. There's a rhythm to it, just like the waves. They work hard, but they also know how to take it easy.
Exactly. It's a life in sync with the ocean's flow, and I think that's what makes it so special. It's not just about what they do, but how they live, always present, always connected.
And after a day like that, surfing, teaching, relaxing by the beach, I can only imagine how incredible the evenings must be for them. It's like the island has this different energy when the sun goes down, don't you think?
Absolutely. The evenings in Phuket are magical. After the heat of the day, the air cools down, but there's still a warmth to it, like the island itself is calming down, but still alive. I remember Pim saying she loves spending her evenings at one of the beach bars, watching the waves in the moonlight.
That sounds so peaceful. I can almost picture it, sitting with a cool drink, the soft sound of the waves in the background, and the smell of the ocean mixing with the scent of tropical flowers in the night air.
Yes, and the way the moonlight reflects off the water, it's like the ocean is shimmering. Pim told me she often sits there with friends, talking for hours, letting the day's excitement slowly fade into the calm of the night.
It's amazing how the rhythm of the day continues into the night. There's still this energy, but it's softer, more reflective. You can feel the connection between the people, the ocean, and the island itself.
Definitely. And sometimes, they'll have impromptu gatherings on the beach. Pim said there are nights when the surfers come together, play music, and just enjoy each other's company under the stars. It's like a small celebration of life.
That sounds so special. Just thinking about being surrounded by friends, the sound of laughter mixing with the ocean's rhythm, and the stars twinkling above. It's such a simple yet meaningful way to end the day.
Exactly. And even though they're so active during the day, they still find this balance at night. It's like the island teaches you to slow down to appreciate every moment.
That's the beauty of it. Whether it's day or night, there's this constant flow of energy, but it's never rushed. The surfers seem to carry that same calmness with them, even when the day is done.
Absolutely. It's a rhythm that I think we could all learn from. Living with purpose, but also with a sense of peace, day or night.
You know, Naomi, spending time with the surfers in Phuket made me think about how different the surfing culture is here compared to Japan. There's something so laid back and community driven about the way they approach surfing in Thailand.
I totally agree. In Thailand, it feels like surfing is more about enjoying the moment and connecting with nature. There's less pressure to be the best or compete. It's really about finding peace with the ocean, isn't it?
Yes, and that's so different from what we experience in Japan. In Japan, especially at the more popular surf spots, there's often this sense of competition, even if it's unspoken. Everyone is aiming to improve, to catch the best wave, to stand out.
Definitely. In Japan, surfing can feel more structured, almost like a sport with specific rules and expectations. You're expected to show progress, to train seriously. There's this dedication that sometimes feels more intense, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I think that intensity is part of the Japanese culture. We're taught to focus on self-improvement and discipline from a young age, whether it's in school or in sports. There's a lot of pride in mastering something.
Exactly. And while that can be motivating, I think it also creates a different relationship with the ocean. It's more about conquering the waves, rather than flowing with them like we see here in Thailand.
That's a great way to put it. In Thailand, there's this natural rhythm to everything, from the way people surf to the way they interact with each other. It's not just about the waves, it's about being in sync with the ocean and with the people around you.
Exactly, and I think that's why we saw so much community spirit here. The local surfers aren't just trying to improve themselves, they're always helping each other. Whether it's offering advice or just cheering someone on, it's really heartwarming.
I noticed that too. And it's a reminder that surfing can be about more than just the sport itself. In Thailand, it's a way of life, a way to connect with others and with nature.
Yes, and that's something I think we can learn from. While I appreciate the discipline and dedication we have in Japan, there's also value in embracing the more relaxed, communal aspects of surfing that we see here in Thailand.
Definitely. It's all about balance, isn't it? Whether you're in Japan or Thailand, surfing offers so much more than just a physical challenge. It's about finding harmony with yourself, the ocean, and the people around you.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes both cultures so special in their own ways. Each one teaches us something different, but equally valuable.
I think what's also interesting is how the ocean itself influences the culture. The waves in Thailand, especially around Phuket, tend to be gentler than those in Japan, right? I feel like that shapes the way people approach surfing here.
Yes, that's a great point. The ocean here is calmer, which seems to invite a more relaxed and meditative approach to surfing. It's about finding the flow, rather than battling the waves. In Japan, the conditions can be much harsher, especially in places like Shonan or Chiba, where the waves are stronger and more unpredictable.
Exactly. The ocean in Japan demands a certain level of intensity and focus. You have to be constantly aware of the conditions, always ready to adapt. But here in Thailand, it feels like the ocean is more forgiving, more of a partner than an opponent.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. Partner versus opponent. In Japan, we often see the ocean as something to conquer, but here, it's something to harmonize with. It's almost like the ocean in Thailand reflects the cultural values of patience, community, and respect for nature.
Yes, and that patience is something I really admire in the Thai surfers. They're so in tune with the natural rhythm of the waves. It's not about forcing things to happen. It's about waiting for the right moment and then acting with precision and grace.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of how that same approach carries over into other aspects of life here in Thailand. Whether it's in their daily routines or how they interact with each other, there's always this calm, patient energy. It's something I've come to appreciate more and more the longer I'm here.
Yes, I feel the same way. And while Japan's surfing culture is more intense, there's something to be said about the dedication and discipline that comes with it. The focus on mastery and improvement can be inspiring in its own way.
Definitely. I think both cultures offer something valuable. Whether it's the peaceful, community-driven approach here in Thailand, or the intense, goal-oriented mindset in Japan, each one reflects the broader values of the society it comes from.
That's true, and I think that's what makes surfing such a universal sport. No matter where you are in the world, it adapts to the culture around it. But at the core, it's always about the connection between the surfer and the ocean.
Exactly. Whether in Japan or Thailand, that connection remains. It's one of the things I love most about surfing. No matter where you are, the ocean always has something to teach you.
That's such a beautiful thought, how the ocean teaches you, no matter where you are. And you can really feel that in Thailand. There's a wisdom in how the local surfers interact with the sea, like they've learned to listen to what it's telling them.
Yes, exactly. It's like they're not just riding the waves, they're communicating with them. There's this deep sense of respect and humility. It reminds me of how Thai culture itself is built around respect, whether it's for people, nature, or traditions.
That's so true. And it's reflected in everything, even in how they surf. It's not about dominance, but about harmony. In Japan, I feel like there's more of a focus on mastery, on perfecting your technique, and being in control of the board and the waves.
Exactly. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a different approach. In Japan, we place a lot of value on discipline and hard work, and that comes through in how we surf too. There's a lot of pride in the effort it takes to master the sport.
Right, and I think that's why surfing in Japan feels more intense, more structured. There's a lot of emphasis on training, improving, and achieving specific goals. It's almost like a reflection of how we approach life in general, very focused and goal-oriented.
Yes, and in a way, that makes sense for Japan. Our society values precision, dedication, and perseverance. But I think there's something to be learned from the Thai approach too. The idea of slowing down, listening to nature, and finding balance.
Definitely. It's all about balance, like you said earlier. There's value in both approaches, whether you're pushing yourself to improve or taking the time to connect with the ocean in a more spiritual way. Both offer something unique and important.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes surfing such a rich experience. It's not just a sport, but a way to reflect on how we live our lives. Whether in Japan or Thailand, the ocean is always teaching us something new.
I love that. It's a reminder that no matter where we are, the ocean offers lessons in patience, resilience, and respect. And it's up to us to decide how we want to engage with those lessons, whether through discipline or harmony, or maybe a bit of both.
Exactly. Maybe that's the beauty of surfing. It can be whatever we need it to be. A challenge, a meditation, a way to connect with others. It's flexible, just like the ocean itself.
It's amazing how much we've learned from our time with the surfers here in Thailand. Whether it's about patience, harmony, or just finding joy in the simple moments, there's so much wisdom in the way they live their lives.
Yes, it's been such a refreshing experience. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the importance of balance. Whether we're talking about surfing or life in general, there's value in pushing ourselves to improve. But there's also beauty in slowing down and being present in the moment.
I completely agree. And it's not just about balance, it's about how we approach the world around us. Whether we're riding waves or navigating our daily lives, there's always something to learn from the way we interact with our environment.
Yes, and I think that's why surfing feels so universal. No matter where you are, whether it's Thailand, Japan, or anywhere else, the ocean always has something to teach us. It's about being open to those lessons and letting them shape who we are.
Exactly. And that openness to learning, to growth, is something that really stood out to me about the surfers here in Thailand. They approach the ocean with respect, but also with a kind of curiosity, a willingness to see what each day brings.
That's a great point. I think it's a reminder for all of us to approach life with that same sense of curiosity and respect. Whether we're tackling new challenges or simply taking a moment to appreciate what we have.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this episode, I think that's the perfect note to end on this idea of balance, of being open to the lessons around us, and of finding beauty in both the challenges and the calm.
I couldn't agree more. It's been such a pleasure to explore these themes with you, Anna, and with our listeners. I hope everyone feels as inspired by the wisdom of the ocean and the surfers here in Thailand as we do.
Me too. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.